The first part was getting the door inside. It was very heavy and required 2 guys to lift. Also, maneuvering the base was very heavy as well, and kind of tricky going down the stairs. Once inside, we opened up the boxes and started trying to disassemble all the pieces from their wrapping. The next most important thing is to get your base in a spot that will be the best spot for your room. This is very important because you can't move it once you start assembling it. Also, the base is heavy. We put ours back 3 inches from the wall, or basically enough to have a fist go through to be able to maneuver cords. First, you start with A1. The premise is that it would push down, click onto the dowels, and click into place. Here comes A2, or is it? Little known to ourselves, we accidentally put A4 in that spot. Oh yes. Later on, we would have to disassemble and then reassemble the entire booth, but more on that later. Right now, we're just learning how to get the pieces into place. Mind you, this whole assembly is being done by my husband, who is only one person. The whole setup would be much easier done with more than one person. And for those of you who are wondering, I couldn't help because I just had surgery and I'm unable to lift certain things. Okay, got that into place. Checking to make sure it's all aligned and the seams are fitting. Now to get those vertical battens. These go at the corners of every single spot. We kind of struggled at first figuring out how to put it in. Oh, don't forget that little foam piece to go on top. Next we have A3. These are very heavy pieces. The 3 spot for both the A, B, and C level are extremely heavy. And again, it would be ultimately the best scenario to have a second person helping you maneuver this. My poor husband had to do it all by himself, but I was there to cheer him on with moral support, as you'll hear from the fast-forwarded chipmunk voices. Alright, clicking it into place, seeing if it's about right, making sure it lines up and the seams are there and that it's pushed all the way down is very important. Now we have A4, which is actually A2. And you'll note the reason why is because this is actually the side that has the ventilator hole and the hole for your cord outlet. This is important to note because apparently you must have that side on the side where you're going to be running your monitor and microphone, which is the other side. We just didn't know that at first. Oops! Pulled it up and the battens came out. Not a big deal. They go right back down and push in. Alright, getting that one all taken care of. Pushing it in, and here we go. Get those vertical battens at the back. Oh, and don't forget, you gotta get those little felt squares to put on top of them. Good job, hubby. Nice close-up. And now we're bringing in the floor carpet. If you notice the base, the white base, there's like some dirty stuff. No, we didn't make it look like that. It came that way. But don't worry, the carpet covers it up. So, no biggie. Now you have to get your battens in. You'll have corner-shaped battens for the back, and then you'll have an L-shaped batten for the front. These were harder than we thought at first to get in. We really struggled. But then we realized the secret. Those battens, you can actually squeeze them just a little bit to push them down to the spot. So now, oh, not that way. There you go. As you squeeze them, you can push them down and get them in. It's important for them to be tight because it helps with the structural stability of the booth. The mallet. This actually came in handy quite a few times throughout the building process. It's a really underrated little tool that was very helpful. Looks good. Hammering along. Okay. Now for B1. This came wrapped in a different thing and it was kind of set aside because it has the Studio One Plus etched into the front. There you go, you can see it. Oop, yep. Now comes B2. There we go, getting it all lined up and then getting ready to put it in and click it in, make sure it's in a good spot. As you can tell, it's very important for it to be level at the same height as each different wall piece. Here comes B3. Again, these 3 sides are really heavy. I felt so horrible for my husband trying to maneuver this all by himself. It took a lot of time. And I couldn't really help, so I just felt bad. We had to really kind of open it up to get it to go into there. It was really quite challenging, and again, it would be very helpful if you had 2 different people working on it. But how pretty is it? Each time we pushed one end down, the other end would come up. It was quite frustrating. So we started working into the middle and then seeing if that helped on the edges. And it eventually did, which helped our sanity and the booth. It's still not quite in, but we're really close. Oh, so close. Again, we were just maneuvering this and trying to get it locked into place. There, we've got it all lined up and ready for the next side, just cornering in those little pieces. We still have all of that to go. And here we have B4, or is it? Remember I told you this is actually B2, since we had our pieces mixed up. Oh dear. But it went in nicely, so you'd almost never know. He was being very certain that it all was very stable, so he took his time to make sure the seams all lined up. And now for the door. This was by far the hardest part. The door is extremely heavy, and you would honestly need 2 people to maneuver it. I have no idea how my husband did it. But basically, because it was so heavy, you had to lift it up, and it was also hard to get it in the notches that it went in. Now, once the door is in place, on either side of my door, there was arrows drawn in markers, which I was a little bit concerned about. But don't worry, those slimy pieces right there slide just over the arrows, so you don't actually see them. So there comes B5 just after A5. Yep, taking them up high and sliding them in, it goes in quite easily. And now, we're redoing that side. And here is the beginning of the end. This is when we finally started to realize something wasn't quite right. Trust me, if something isn't working, it's probably for a reason. And right now you're noticing that things weren't lining up quite as they should. No matter how hard we tried, he couldn't get it in. But you gotta give us credit. We just kept going and going and trying some more, but to no real avail. It was really starting to create some frustration because we were like, why is it not working? And yet we persevered, and it still didn't work. That is the correct spot for it, but unfortunately, because we have C1 on top of B2 and A2 that don't actually go there, because they're actually A4 and B4, that C level is not going to fit right. And it was only too late after we spent a lot of time working on this that we actually realized it. And then we had to reassemble. But it is a pretty booth, isn't it? It's coming along. Just for frame of reference, the first round of assembly took us an entire 3 hours. Now, the second round, after we tore it all down and then started again, only took us 30 minutes because we actually knew what we were doing. As you can see, at this C level, a step ladder is really important. And also, don't forget your vertical battens on every level. Oh, and look at us. We're just still going, even though it's not right, but that's okay. We figured our arrow would work for somebody's benefit so that they don't do it as well. And then we kept going, trying to reassemble. This is actually the D level. Again, still not fitting quite right, but we're trying to go for it anyway. Again, the step ladder is really important. I'd highly recommend having one person hold the ladder. Here's D2. As you can see, he's trying to work on D3. Oh, and see right there? It's not quite aligning. Oh, and here's after we've already taken it all down and we're starting to rebuild. We got very tired and hot, so sorry about the no shirt situation. But as you can see, look how quickly we've already reassembled to this point. It went so unbelievably quick now that we knew what we were doing. We also left the door standing in place with just a couple bottom level supports, and I also held the door just for stability purposes. Looks like we're already back up to the sea level at C1, putting in the vertical battens. Sorry about my camera work, it's not the best. And here's our trusty mallet, getting things hammered down. Alright, here is D1, again. Even though my husband's 6 feet tall, it's still kind of hard to manipulate it since it's so high up. So I recommended he get on a ladder, which he didn't. But that's okay, he listened to me for the second part. Now we're working on D2. And here's the worst part outside the door, D3. It's so high up and so heavy for one person to manage. Sorry about the terrible camera angle. I was trying to let you see from this side how you have to line up just perfectly over those dowels. So close, just a little bit more. But you can't see it if you're inside. There we go, we got it. And I'm sorry we didn't show you the roof because I actually had to help, but here's the finished product.